computer. Hi there, Tucker here with the group of Tucker, Tracy, Ed, and Zico. I'm going to start our presentation for the review of the Brickwall Cyber policies and best practices for the internal policy review. The first thing I did was to review the junk and spam emails policies. The first rule is obviously if there's any legitimate organization such as Brickwall Cyber or anyone else, will never ask you for a username or password over email. If you're unsure who the sender is, do not open this attachment or the link file. And number three is any offer too good to be true can also be an indication this is a spam email. And finally, move the suspicious email to the junk spam folder. What I added to this was a few things. Number one, I added to take a screenshot of any potentially suspicious email and share it with the help desk so they can further investigate and provide warning to any of the other users that might be affected by a similar campaign. I also added blocking this user within Outlook would be another best practice. You can do that by simply right-clicking the message in question, then selecting junk and then block sender. What this will do is record the sender to be affiliated with your junk folder. So any email communications from this sender will automatically be sent to the junk folder. The next thing I did was I added an entirely new section regarding phishing emails and social engineering. This was not something that was addressed within our junk or suspicious email policy, and I felt it needed to be addressed. So the situation one might receive during a phishing email is receiving an email from a sender claiming to need your login credentials for administrative purposes. Phishing occurs when attackers masquerade as a trusted source to dupe victims into divulging credit card numbers, login credentials, or other personal information. The best practice when encountering one of these type of emails would be to, number one, keep your guard up. Always be suspicious. Brickwall Cyber is a very desirable target for attackers. We service a wide variety of customers with highly sensitive data within their networks. So always keep your guard up. Number two, look hard at the email. Does the logo of the email look right? Do the graphics in the email look official? Is the sender's email address affiliated with a reputable business, or is it from public domain like Gmail, AOL, or Google? Number three, never fill in credentials or sensitive information on a pop-up in one of these emails. Number four, hover your mouse over any hyperlinks, but do not click them. This will allow you to further investigate the embedded URLs. Does this URL look official? Ask yourself. Does it seem to be overly long or doesn't have the same business address affiliated with the email in the URL? All those could be potentially suspicious. Do not respond to any suspicious emails. Again, take a screenshot and alert the help desk. They will conduct a further investigation and alert the rest of the staff for about any of these suspicious campaigns. The next situation you might encounter is a social engineering phone call. You could receive a phone call from someone claiming to be an administrator, asking for your login credentials for administrative or security purposes. When encountering something like this, the general best practices are to, number one, look at the caller's ID. Is this a caller number that you know? Is it a block number? If it seems suspicious, it probably is. Number two, Brickwall Cyber will never call you to ask you for your credentials. We have administrative policies in place. So we would never need to contact you for any kind of login credentials. Do not trust this type of call ever. Also, ask the caller if they could ask your direct manager to contact you about whatever they need. And if they are not able to do that, just hang up and report this to the help desk. They will further investigate and, again, alert the rest of the staff to any of these potentially malicious campaigns. The next best policy that I updated was a software license request. Currently, what it says right now is staff members may request a software license to Brickwall Cyber using the ticketing system. The request can be made for a new installation or a software upgrade or a license renewal. Non-standard software requests may be approved by IT managers. Users will send a support ticket to help desk requesting the non-standard software. What I added was a more in-depth process for potentially getting yourself a non-essential non-standard software license. If you believe a non-standard software license to be essential for your job and would drastically improve your productivity, you may submit a proposal to management. The license proposal best practices are: number one, to write a description of the desired software and how it will increase your productivity. Focus on your current workflow and how the software will save time and streamline any of your daily processes. And then take it upon yourself to research the software, how it's licensed, the cost associated with your desired functionality. Take it upon yourself to prove the necessity of the investment. First, contact the company's sales department to see if there is an evaluation or a free trial license. Then deploy that evaluation software or free trial into a sandbox environment to test this functionality with the Brickwall Cyber workflows. Include official pricing and software licensing agreements within your proposal, including annual costs and any kind of hardware requirements that might be affiliated with this software. Be prepared to offer a demonstration to management on how this additional software will increase your productivity in your daily responsibilities here at Brickwall Cyber. That concludes the additions to the policies that I have made. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ed to go over what he has done.
All right, thank you. The area I wanted to look at was particularly around file backup, and the policy that had been in place since 2010 had what I consider to be some grammatical errors, as well as just some general policy updates, particularly around the should and must functionality of how a person would go about making sure that their files had been backed up. In order for this to be consistent, it is essential that everyone follow a same policy, and that policy is built around the idea of synchronizing your documents with the U drive, as well as the My Documents area within your personal client. The My Documents folder is a component of the user profile that's used as a unified location for storing the personal data. So by default, the My Documents folder is a folder in the user's profile that is used as the default storage location for those saved documents. And then as the administrators, you can use the folder redirection in a group policy to modify the location of the My Documents. And that's what will enable that sync between the user desktop and the network share drive. The other thing I wanted to mention was that based on the OS that's being used, the functionality outlined in this policy would apply to an earlier version of Windows. On the latest version of Windows, we would probably look to use something along the lines of OneDrive that would allow for the individuals to sync their documents and be accessible through mobile devices or through the OneDrive.com, but all of the documents that they would have in place can be added to their OneDrive sync, and that would be a continual and constant synchronization going on for each of the participants. And that is how we have updated the file backup policy. Thanks, Tucker.
All right, I'm going to dive into adding a network printer. So I was looking at the policy and everything looked decent with before, but I thought the most important part was what happens if somebody cannot find the printer and it's not listed. So I went ahead and I added the steps that they would take to approach to add the network printer in if the printer actually did not show when we're trying to add it in. So I went through the steps. First, obviously, you would click to add a printer or scanner. And that way we can search for the printer. That's going to be the easiest way that anybody can add a printer to their desktop if they're looking to add. If it's not there, then you would have to go through the steps that I've listed below. So you'd scroll down to the related settings and click into the device and printer. You're going to add the printer, and then a new box will appear where it shows that it is searching for the printer. You're going to click into the printer that says it wasn't listed, and then you're going to select the add the printer using the TCP IP address or host. Once you click into that, you'll be able to select the device, which again would be the TCP IP device You're going to plug in your host name or IP address. You can get this from the printer configuration page. And then you're going to put the port name in, which would be the same as your IP address of the printer that you're trying to add to your device. Once you hit next, you'll see a box pop up, and then you'll be able to do a test page if you want to print that to make sure that the network printer was added successfully. And also you have the option to select that printer as a default. So you can set that. And then once you hit finish, the network printer should be added into your computer. So that way it prints to that default printer. The next session I had was how to set a default printer. I thought everything looked really, really good that was provided previously from the policy. So the only thing that I would suggest for changes would be to add on if, once again, the printer is not found. So I went ahead and I added that in, which would be pretty similar to the steps previous with adding a network printer. You would just want to go ahead and find the printer that you're trying to add as a default. One other thing that I did list was another option. Instead of right-clicking, you can actually go ahead and double-click into the printer, and then you should be able to select the printer menu and select the default printer that way. So I focused on printers because I felt like this is an important issue that a lot of people coming into a work environment, they always have questions. Why can't I find the printer? How do I add the printer to my computer? So I thought it was important to make sure that we had detailed description of how to set a default printer and also add a network printer to somebody's computer. So that way, hopefully in return, it's gonna limit the amount of help desk tickets that somebody may be submitting because it's simple enough that we can give that information out to the coworkers when they're trying to install it themselves. So I'm gonna go ahead over to Zika so he can finish it out.
All right, thank you very much, Tracy. So the two portions of this that I cover are both VPN and remote desktop control, which is called RDC. These are both ways you can access the network, whether you're in the office or out of the office. The previous outline for this says what the technologies are that they're using. My revisions include how you can use and access these technologies whilst remaining secure. So the first part is VPN, which is virtual private network, which allows a user of a network to remotely access another brick wall cyber network via the internet. VPN allows brick wall cyber staff with a company laptop to continue working remotely on the same laptop environment. Now, what I added in with the revisions were for safety purposes, and it states that employees are only to access the VPN while using company devices that have a secure posture that is approved by the company. Clients must all use the same VPN technology for management purposes. This applies to all employees, contractors, vendors, and agents with a company or personally owned computer or workstation used to connect with the Brickwall Cyber Network. That applies to all connections used to perform work duties on behalf of Brickwall Cyber, including but not exclusive to reading, sending email, and viewing intranet web resources. While accessing the Brickwall Cyber Network, authorized users are responsible for preventing access to the company resources or data by non-authorized users. Some directly associated company policies worth revealing in regards to this are the acceptable use policy, password policy, and hardware and software configuration standards. The second portion of my presentation refers to remote desktop control. Okay, that would be remote desktop control allows users to remotely control to the Brickwall Cyber desktop computer and stimulate the remote screen locally on your PC at home. This method is the easiest to use. All settings are kept on your desktop in the company office. This method requires two steps. One, a VPN, which was previously discussed, and two, the RDC, which is the remote desktop control. My revisions on this are, while the RDP is a tool which can be used to efficiently access the network, it also provides a backdoor into the Brickwall Cyber Network that can be used for theft of and authorized access to assets, which could lead to the destruction of them. All remote access tools to communicate between Brickwall Cyber assets and other systems must comply with the following policy requirements, which would be Remote clients will only use Brickwall Cyber approved software to establish remote connections. This software will require authentication in order to gain access, preferably multi-factor authentication. The remote access tool must mutually authenticate both ends of the session, and all Brickwall Cyber antivirus, data loss prevention, and other security systems must not be disabled, interfered with, or circumvented in any way. This is all I can touch on the subject for now without getting into the specifics of the software that will be used. And that is all I have for my presentation, and that concludes.
So that is going to conclude our group's presentation for the updates we have made for the Brickwall Cyber internal policies. We want to thank you for taking the time to review these with us, and hope you guys have a great rest of the day. All right, thanks a lot.